some brilliant guests tonight.
The reason why we are on lockdown has nothing to do with the fact of building our immune system.
Try something else for a bit, then stop. So they've been using us all as guinea pigs.
What I will do differently now is that I won't feel like I haven't got a voice because I'm not Black.
Everybody's going to be dead at the same time.
I have never spoken about Black on Black because it's a nonsense, because most crimes are committed by non-Blacks.
Let that child go to school and come back with anything and see me.
The disclaimer for the Pick a Topic with Sam and Guest show. The opinions aired on this chat show are not necessarily the views of the presenter. The information on this chat show is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. All content, including text, graphics, images, and information contained on or available through this chat show are for general information purposes only. This chat show makes no representation and assumes no responsibility for the accuracy of information on or available through this chat show, and such information is subject to change without notice. You are encouraged to confirm any information obtained from or through this chat show with other sources and review all information regarding any medical condition or treatment with your physician.
Good evening and welcome to Pick a Topic with Sam and Guest show. I have got the lovely Nigel Beckles with us today, who is our relationship coach, and he's been doing this for quite a few years now. However, I do like to bring on Nigel and ask him to introduce himself, because there's no one better than yourself to introduce yourself, right? So here we go. Hi, Nigel. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine. My name's Nigel Beckles. I'm an author and relationship coach and specialist.
Excellent. Okay. And just so that some of the viewers who've not seen you before, they can actually find out just a little bit about you. How did you come about doing this kind of work?
Partly personal experience, partly because I'm a very curious guy and I love research. So I really started doing the research for the book as part of a personal journey. So the first book took me 5 years because with relationships, it's how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Very deep subject. And I've just finished the draft for my second book, which is about abusive relationships and toxic personalities.
Wow. And if I'm right, it took you did some extensive research, like you went in, didn't you?
Well, 5 years is a long time, but then at the end of the day, I like to do things properly. And with relationships, there's so many different subtopics that, you know, you kind of read something, you think, oh, I didn't know about that. And so it goes on. So, but at some stage, you know, you have to say, well, enough's enough, really. I mean, the first draft was 800 pages and I'm a 2-finger typist. So probably partly why it took me 5 years. But yeah.
Wow. You know, it must be an experience to write a book. Maybe one of these days I'll venture into it. I'd like to say good evening to Beverly Brown. Beverly Brown is saying good evening, Sam and Nigel. Well, as you all know, I don't just have the relationship coach in the studio. I also have some other guests in here tonight. So we're going to introduce to you at the moment, Sharon. Let me just bring Sharon on. How are you, Sharon? Hi.
Hi everyone. Hi, Sam.
You are going to turn down your device, Sharon. So while you do that, I will remove you and I'll bring someone else.
Okay.
Hello, Wayne. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you.
Today. Thank you very much for coming. We are going to get into this topic, which I will mention in a minute. Just 1 second. Let's bring on Julie. How you doing?
Good evening. Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Lovely smile. Okay, and then we have Sharon, who we've already met. So, Sharon, Nigel, Wayne, and Julie, what we are discussing today it's two things. We're discussing friends with benefits, and then we're discussing healthy boundaries for relationships just in general. Okay. We do have someone else here with a message. Denise Roberts, I'd like to say hello to you. Denise Roberts is saying, hi, Sam, Nigel, and guests. Glad I'm able to make it, even if for a short while. Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you very much for joining us. Right, so the first question, or then again, I'm not going to do the question. Julie, you're my co-host for today.
Oh, I am? Thank you.
Yes, you are. You're my co-host for today. You didn't realise, but you are. And I'm going to ask you to, first of all, you know, tell me what your understanding or how you see friends with benefits to be, and also maybe mention some few healthy boundaries, but more importantly, pick a few questions from Nigel.
Friends, what my opinion, my interpretation of friends with benefit.
That's right.
I'm not sure if I'm qualified. The first thing that comes, I don't know, it's really shallow. But the first thing, look, Nigel laughing already, yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of friends with benefits, I think of a relationship between two people, a man and a woman, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, whatever it is. I think of a friendship that maybe, you know, you can call upon that person to, I was going to say service you, but that's not appropriate. What time is it? You know, yeah, you can tell I haven't rehearsed, right? A friend with benefit, it has sexual connotations to me. Friends with benefits. That's the kind of, it's not a phrase that I recognize from when I was growing up. Something that I've heard about along the way. But definitely there seems to be some sort of mutual agreement between the two friends that, you know, we can do this and it won't ruin our relationship. Now, of course, I'm in a very long and loving relationship, so I can only rely on hearsay. But if you like, I guess mine could be considered an extremely long-term relationship.
Oh, Jules, don't go there. Don't go there, because no, it can't. It just can't.
But I think between two friends, I think I don't see anything wrong with it. I think if it's something that's established from the get-go, you know what I mean? Not. I'd hate to think that you could be in a relationship and then break up, and then someone's still looking for the benefits. I think the next phrase that would come in there would be to have one's cake and eat it too. Like you might have a few friends, but I don't know. I guess as the conversation goes along, I'll fire some questions at Nigel, because I know he has a kind of a clinical explanation. But then I'd love to hear from somebody who might be in such a union at the moment.
Well, what I'm going to do right now, Julie, is I'm asking you to take over a second while I disappear and go and do something technical. And please, would you ask Nigel and Wayne and Sharon their views on this, but maybe leave Nigel to last. Okay?
Yes. I was going to say, before I go to Nigel, maybe I'll throw it out to Wayne to just see, because I know there's probably a different perspective between a man and a woman. So what is your perspective, Wayne, on a relationship, friends with benefits?
Well, the way I see it is there are certain things that shouldn't mix. And I think sex and friendship is, unless you're in a committed relationship, you know, casual sex is never a good thing, because it does lead to complications. And friends with benefits, okay, so there's no commitment, there's no long-term relationships that are implied. But then you're going to get somebody, you know, if one of the partners finds another partner now? Then how do you still continue that friendship without the benefits? Is one going to get jealous than the other? I just don't see how it works, and it's not something that me personally that I could be involved with.
So Wayne, let me be so bold as to ask you, in my position as co-host, have you never had a one-night stand?
No.
Okay.
Never. For me, there has to be a conscious decision to connect with that person.
What's love got to do with it? Because I know that's where you're going. What's love got to do with it these days?
Well, these days with other people, other people having relationships, if that's good for them, that's good for them. But for me, love has everything to do with it. So wow. I couldn't see myself in a sexual relationship with someone that I wasn't or couldn't see myself spending the rest of my life with them.
I think if you...
a one night thing just wouldn't work for me.
Okay, I'm going to have to interject a little bit. Just simply, Wayne, you're not coming through very clearly.
I thought it was just me.
No, you're not coming through very clearly. Thank you so much for that, Julie. Thank you for that, Wayne. I just want to quickly say hello to Barry Thomas and to Derek Brown and to Jax. Who's Jax? Well, we've got Jackie. Jacqueline was in the studio last week, and what a show it was last week. Oh my God. Okay, so Beverly Brown is saying, oh, hold one second. Jacqueline is saying consenting and transparency and clear boundaries. Okay. Beverly Brown is saying friends with benefits for me isn't exactly a friendship. It's more of a mutual understanding that you're giving each other a physical workout. Okay. All right. I mean, I personally think for me, I've got to be honest, it's not, as Jacqueline will put it, it's not my kind of love style, if you like. So it's not something that I've indulged in. And I don't know if it's something that I could indulge in, because for me, I think, and maybe this is stereotypical, who knows, but I just think that men tend to function in a different way to women, and women sometimes think that they can handle friends with benefit type relationship or situationship, if that's what you would call it. But then along the way, they tend to get emotionally involved, and so therefore they want more. And that's what I would imagine women would do, and that's the reason why I personally wouldn't go there, because I'm quite certain that I would, because I have to have an emotional connection to someone anyway before being with them. And if that's the case, then I would definitely be one of those who get caught in the trap of, oh, I thought I could do it, but I can't. So, that's my take on it. But I don't have anything against it. I don't have anything against it at all. It's two consenting people, or 3 or 4, whatever it may be. But Sharon, what do you think?
I 100% agree with you, Sam. It's horses for courses. At the end of the day, if that's what floats your boat, as long as the boundaries are clearly set, etc., it's up to you. But for me,
Sharon, your microphone is not working properly. Should you have any devices on, if you turn those down, then it won't make any noises or anything like that. But I'm going to come to you now, Nigel. And I just want to quickly ask you, Nigel, what is your take on friends with benefits?
Oh, friends with benefits is fine. I mean, it's two consenting adults. Well, in theory, it's two consenting adults having sex at their mutual convenience, really. But as you mentioned earlier, women will generally tend to be at a disadvantage because, as I was discussing last week, in terms of oxytocin, the hormone that women predominantly have, which is known as the cuddling hormone, a woman is likely or more likely to catch feelings in that situation, as they say, as opposed to a guy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I got that one right, because that's just how I feel it would work, to be honest. Now, coming around to, because we are discussing two things, coming to having healthy boundaries in relationships, in whatever type of relationship. What's some of the basic ones, would you say, Nigel?
Well, basic is mutual respect for starters. If you haven't got respect, then mutual respect, you're not really going anywhere, are you? In terms of a romantic relationship, or in fact any type of relationship, when you think about it. So yeah, you have to know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable as far as, you know, personal boundaries are concerned. It's really as simple as that. You've got to be very clear as to what it is that you think is acceptable. It's really that, well, it is that simple in terms, but some people find it very difficult to actually establish and maintain healthy personal boundaries for a variety of different reasons, i.e. low self-esteem. There might be a bit of a people pleaser, etc. So there are different reasons why people fail to maintain healthy personal boundaries, but inevitably they will always suffer for not maintaining those boundaries.
How important is it to make sure that you have some healthy boundaries?
It's essential. You because otherwise you're going to be walking around and be at the mercy of very nasty and toxic people who will use you, people who will abuse you. And as the old saying goes, what you allow is what will continue. It's really that simple.
Okay. I want to say hello to Herbs. How are you doing, Herbs L? Some just have a large sexual desire the most. Some do not want a serious relationship due to their work, i.e. travel all the time. That's what Herbs L is saying. Julie, I'm going to hand it back to you.
I think just listening to the panel, and unfortunately, we haven't quite heard what Jackie's opinion is. Are you able?
Sharon.
I beg your pardon, Sharon. Are we able to get some comments from Sharon? I think there was some sound issues.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that sounds lovely.
Great stuff.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. I was saying horses for courses. At the end of the day, if boundaries are agreed, if that's what floats your boat, fine. For me, it personally wouldn't work, because I agree that, you know, for most women, many women, there's a real emotional connection to the sexual act. I agree with you, Sam. There has to be some sort of, I don't know, longer term commitment, longer term understanding, etc. I can totally understand why people do it though, because to a number of the points raised, sex is a need. You know, it's a human requirement. So, you know, you have to make arrangements for food, you make arrangements for shelter, you make arrangements for other friendships. So, you know, in a way, it's understandable why people would do it rather than, you know, paying for it or going, you know, having sex with a stranger. On many occasions, you gain an understanding with an individual who is consenting. But for me, that personally wouldn't work. Because the emotional attachment to sex is something which I have, you know, I've always considered. I do think it's a generational thing as well. I think it's getting much more acceptable, particularly for women, to be able to, you know, have that type of relationship and clearly state that that's what they're about. When I was growing up, that was a no-no. But it's, you know, it's changed a lot over the years.
I think one of the guest panelists made a comment that it could be more construed as convenience. It's just convenient, a convenient relationship to have, in the sense that, you know, it might be that your work dictates the hours that you're available. You know, you haven't got time for the literally haven't got time. You might be working shift works, you know what I mean? And it's just not convenient. I guess it wouldn't be fair to expect somebody to, you know, if for example, you're away on tour, you know, me and Sam, we've got a lot of musician friends and actors and stuff who are often away on tour for long periods of time. And I understand what what happens in Rome stays in Rome. I know there's all those sort of phrases, but I think it's more a convenient state of mind that you're not necessarily misleading that person that this is going to be anything other than what it is.
But you see, Jules, I've been sitting down here thinking that is true if it goes that way, but there are some people, I mean, mentioning no names, there are some people who are in what they feel is a relationship, but they're actually in a friends with benefits situationship. I mean, how does that actually happen? Nigel, how does that happen? Because it happens a lot.
Well, one of the ways it happens is I've got a phrase I call friends with benefits by default. So how that happens often is they're a couple are in a relationship fails. However, often the woman, not always, but often, will still indulge sexually with the guy, hoping to rekindle the relationship, etc. So she will find herself in a friends with benefits situation by default because she's still seeing the guy, assuming it's the guy, because how it goes these days. But
Exactly.
she's still seeing her ex-partner and hoping to rekindle the relationship. And unfortunately, a woman can put herself in a situation where she's being used, because a lot of women will go into, I mean, I've been in friends with benefits situations. I'm a big boy now, been there, done that. So, and
I think I disagree with you though, Nigel. I'm sorry.
Go on.
I think that sometimes the woman is calling the shots. You're saying that the woman might have got into this situation by default, but I think, okay, the relationship might have broken down. You're no good with finance. You can't cook. You can't dance. But boy, you can make love.
I don't see
like
where we're disagreeing, because at the end of the day, the bottom line is, as I said before, regarding oxytocin and the cuddle hormone, etc. But the bottom line is, the person is still holding on to or trying to rekindle the relationship for whatever reason.
Right, but sorry, Nigel. I don't think it's a case of trying to hold on to the relationship in order to rekindle it. It's like the sex is good. I'll just take that good bit and forget about the rubbish. So I'll get on with my daily work, my job, my whatever. But I'll come right back to you for that.
Well, yeah, that happens.
Okay. Well,
that happens.
Sorry, Nigel, go ahead.
I said, yeah, that happens. But I would say, from my personal experience and observations, that generally speaking, a woman may say, yes, she can handle it. She can, we'll just do friends with benefits. I'm not going to get attached. I just want the nookie, right? But a little way down the road,
it all changes.
Start catching feelings. And you see, the thing is about emotions, it's a science. It's not all this lovey-dovey Mills and Boone Hollywood eyes meet across a room business, right? It's science. And the science tells me, basically, women have more oxytocin than men. Oxytocin is a cuddle hormone. Oxytocin is what bonds a woman to her partner. That's science. That ain't opinion. That's how it is. So in those circumstances, it's obvious a woman is more likely to catch feelings than a guy in a friends with benefits situation. That's just how it is.
While you're on that note, now that men know that piece of information, what about men? Like, could you help us ladies out here now that men know that women have this?
Men can catch feelings too. I mean,
what's their weak point? I mean, That's obviously, it could be our strength as well, but it's also our weak point. What's the men's weak point?
Well,
Wayne.
if we're going to talk strictly about friends with benefits within that context, men generally will come off better in that situation than a woman, 8 times out of 10, just because of the science.
Okay. Okay, Wayne, let's hear from you. Yes, let's unmute you here. Okay.
Well, I would
Oh,
say,
Wayne, no, sorry. Your microphone is still very bad.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, Herbie is, Beverly Brown is saying jealousy. Okay. Herbs is saying men will be very cold with no hang-ups. And that is the truth, really, isn't it? Men can do that. They can put everything in a box. Women, they don't do that. I know that there are some women who are built that way, but generally not. Go on, say it, Jules. I know you're
I don't know. I'm not sure. Herbsley, men will be very cold with no hang-ups. What does he mean?
Okay, Herbs L, I think what he's trying to say is that whereas women get emotionally involved and stuff, men will be like very cold, no hang-ups, it's all good, it was nice, see you later, bye. If I never see you again, it's fine, whatever.
Okay. I think there's
you can always correct me if I'm wrong.
There's some strong women out there. And what's Denise saying?
Denise is saying, isn't that soul destroying, especially for the woman? Because women tend to be more emotional. I don't think it's something a girl grows up thinking that she wants. And I would agree with Denise. And she's also saying, I think women end up in that sort of situation after hurts, mishaps, and disappointments.
Oh, I've got to disagree, Denise. All right. Okay, here it is. I didn't want to go there, but you're making me go there.
You're being pushed, Jules. Are you being pushed?
Yeah, because I think women end up in that. No, I'm sorry, I disagree. I guess I can only talk about the experiences that I've had. And before my long-term relationships and stuff like that, I've been in this position where, and as I said at the time, it wasn't called friends with benefits. It was just this convenient thing where you would just have a relationship of sorts with that one person for that one thing. So there was no whining or dining or going to meet your mum or shopping or nothing. It was just, you come here, take care of this, thank you, good night. And that was it. And it was great and it was convenient and there were no strings attached and it lasted for a good 4 or 5 years because it was what it was. You know what I mean? I was off on tour, I was here, there and everywhere, but I knew rather than having Tom, Dick and Harry, because like Sharon said, we have needs, it was just Tom. Now, it's hypothetical. And I was in control. Yeah. No man weren't controlling me. I was in control. It was at my convenience. And then what happened? As much as Nigel is suggesting that the women are more emotional, and I think Denise was on the same line. No.
And me as well, to be honest. Jules, yeah. I'm on the same line and all.
No, not all the time. Couple guys.
I'm not saying all women. I'm saying the majority of women.
You think majority?
Yeah.
I think Sam. I think there is this misconception that men are less emotional or less needy in that way than women. I don't think so. I think they're good at hiding it. There's all that bravado thing, Nigel and I alike. There's all that bravado thing that men have to put on. But I think if you scratch the surface, men are emotional. They need cuddles. They need those cuddles.
However, Jules, they are very emotional. No one's saying that. But what I am saying is that they are quicker to have a friends with no benefit situation with no emotional strings are attached developments than women are. They just are wired that way.
Oh,
That's,
right.
I'm not saying that it cannot be the reverse. And I don't think Nigel's saying that it cannot be the reverse. It, like he said, it's to do with science. What do you call it, Nigel? Oxytocin?
Oxytocin, it's known as, in layman's term, the cuddle hormone. And basically oxytocin is the hormone that bonds one person to another, and women have a great deal more oxytocin than men. Men have a great deal more testosterone than women. So that's basically how
Who loves cuddles? Who loves cuddles more than men?
Well, it depends what kind of man you have. I can't speak for you. I can only speak for what the science tells me. And that's what the science tells me. Simple.
Okay, look, I want to say hello to Derek Brown again. And she's saying friends with benefits should mean both consenting adults with mutual understanding, and to be transparent should work. However, does not work, then it spirals into problems and mixed emotions, etc. Herbs Lewis is saying females are scared to answer what they really want at the time in case they scare the man away. And Denise Roberts is saying, go there. Well, you know what, Jules? I do know quite a few female friends that did what you did when you were away and here, there, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I feel that, and we've covered it so many times, I'm going to move on now, but I'm just saying I think it's the majority of women usually get attached,
get hurt,
and get hurt because of it. But more to the point, it's sort of like, why do people end up in a situation where they feel that they are in a relationship, but from the word go, the partner, in their head, it's a friends with benefit situation? I mean, in those circumstances, remember we were talking about polyamory last week, wouldn't it be a better choice to do that?
Who's that to, Nigel?
To any one of you, Sharon, Nigel, Jules.
Can we get Wayne back in yet?
Who,
go on, Nigel.
or Sharon?
I was just going to say that, well, you know, sometimes we think we're signing up for one thing, and we end up signing up for something completely different. And that's usually because the other person's lying, basically.
But sometimes they can keep it up for years. For instance, I can think of a lady, she's a singer, and I can think of a lady who was with someone for, I mean, like years. And when I say years, I mean years. And to a certain degree, they're kind of still together. But that was definitely on his behalf. And everybody else knew it but her.
They married?
No. But basically, everyone knew it but her. And they were in a friends with benefit situation. She just didn't know.
Well, maybe.
So what did she think it was?
A proper
Sorry,
relationship.
Nigel.
A proper relationship.
Sorry. No, I'm just going to say, well, yeah, but then on the other hand, maybe she did know. As I was saying earlier, sometimes people will hang into a friends with benefits, in the hope that things will change, that it will go up to the next level, as it were, and it never does.
Well, let's get into that then, Nigel, because it never really does change, does it? If it starts out that way, I'm not saying it can't change, all right, before I can hear Julie in my head. I'm not saying it can't change, okay? But I am saying that once it starts off that way, it usually doesn't change. Is that not correct? Or
in my experience, like I said, I've been there, done that. I mean, back in the day, I would call friends with benefits the arrangement. That was my term for it. So it's always existed. It just depends on what terminology you may decide to use. So in terms of the question, at the end of the day, if you're in a situation where you start off with a friends with benefits and then you decide, oh, I want more, but the other person says, well, this is what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for more, which I've been in that situation where I've gone into a friends with benefits and said, look, up front, this is what it is. This is what you're going to get. That's the deal. So for me, it's either you take the deal or leave the deal. Simple.
Okay.
So woman takes the deal. 6 months down the road, she's trying to, as we would say in London, move the goalposts. Well, we started off here, but now you want this. Well, no, I told you what it was up front. So, I'm not about to rewrite the contract.
So, Nigel, what advice would we give to our young people who might be just starting out, embarking on relationships? I'm saying young 18-year-olds, or I don't know how young they start dating these days. 18 upwards. So what advice, what sort of signs would we advise them to look out for? Or should we even give them any of those pointers to look out for? Aren't relationships like a discovery? Do you know what I mean? You don't want people to walk around with labels on them.
That is a question that I'm going to ask you to remember, Nigel, because when we come back after, I know, and also you, Julie, just in case you need to repeat it, because we're going to come back after the commercial break. Okay. We haven't got long. We're going to remember that, and then we're going to start discussing healthy boundaries, and hopefully we're going to hear more from Sharon, and we're going to get Wayne back. So bear with me, please.
Have you experienced several failed relationships or been through a divorce? How can you avoid making the same mistakes again? How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes is out now. Now you can discover the dangerous myths about love. If your relationship expectations are realistic, why you could be falling in love for all the wrong reasons.
How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes. It's a book that could change your life.
Available from Amazon.co.uk. Kindle version also available.
Okay, so in all honesty, I really want to come to healthy boundaries, because this is the last episode in this series, and I am going to be speaking with Nigel about coming back to do another series about relationships again, because 4 episodes doesn't really cover it. I mean, we can go on with many topics and still it's not being covered. So, but look, I want to go to more tips, if you like, Nigel, in some healthy boundaries, ones that people probably wouldn't even think of for themselves that's actually necessary and needed. Do you have any tips for us? And also, I just want to say to everybody as well that the phone lines are now open. And before we do that, Herb L is saying she was blinkered as she did not want to see what was actually real. Did he take her out, buy her birthday presents, met any of the family? If no, I'm not quite sure what that is in response to, Herbs L, to be honest.
I think she's talking about friends with benefits in terms of if you're not, if you haven't met the family, if you're not being taken out, if you're not doing things together, if you're not seen in public, well, it's more likely than not you're in a FWB, as I call it, for sure.
Yeah, understood. Okay, right. So we're looking for some tips, please, Nigel. Ones that are more discreet, ones that people wouldn't think of. Give us maybe a couple of those. And also, I want to get the phone lines open. So let's put that up here for everyone to see as well. If you are ready to speak with us in the studio today. I do love it when we have live callers. So far, since I started the live calling section, we've always had a call. I don't know if we're going to be lucky today, but I sure hope we are. So the number is 07 469 243 665. Nigel, please, what's your tips?
Well, my first tip is you can't blame people for sucking the energy out of you if you keep giving them the straw in whatever context. So in far as I'm concerned, there are 5 basic boundaries you need. You need emotional boundaries, material boundaries. You need boundaries around your time and energy. You need boundaries around your mental state and your feelings and your own time. And obviously you need boundaries around your physical proximity. Those are the 5 basic personal boundaries everybody should be practicing. Some people fail to practice healthy personal boundaries for, a variety of reasons.
Okay, but say we've got a young person watching and they don't understand exactly how to set boundaries or what boundaries even are, how to implement them. How would you tell them to go about it?
Well, they have to be clear on what the particular boundary they want to set. So basically, the basic steps to setting a personal boundary is establish the boundary, first of all, articulate your boundary, and then stick to your boundary.
Give us an example of a boundary.
All right, then. Say you've got a friend, and this friend has a particular way of speaking to you at times, which you do not like. Then you articulate that. You say, well, sorry, I don't find that acceptable. The problem some people have with setting their boundaries is they think people are not going to like them because they've set a boundary.
Okay.
But to me, it's better to lose someone out of your life who's been disrespectful than to keep someone in your life who's been disrespectful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sharon, you are looking absolutely gorgeous as ever. But we can't hear from you. We can just see that beautiful smile.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
You're quiet tonight. But before I do that, Beverly Brown is saying teenagers are still finding themselves. I think it's something they need to find out for themselves, but always have that door open where both of you, as the parent or the teenager in question, can use. Okay, Beverly. Okay.
I just think that any relationship is about communication up front. The kind of emotional and love relationship is the only relationship you go into without having a discussion. If you're taking up employment, before you take on that contract, you have that discussion about what the terms are. If you're going into a business arrangement, if someone's coming to do work for you, you have a discussion about the delivery of that work, the terms, the behavior, etc. And then, there's so many of us that just go into relationships totally blindly. And back to Nigel's point about the Mills and Boons and the love and the starry eye across the room and everything else, that is wonderful. But there does come a point where you have to have a discussion and you have to say, okay, what's going on here? What's the plan? Are we on the same page in terms of, where this relationship is going, what the values are, what the boundaries are, what the financial situation is, expectations, etc. And I'm so surprised so often when I hear people saying sort of 5, 10, 15 years down the line, and they haven't had these fundamental discussions which are going to make a healthy relationship. So, I know it's not always easy, but at some stage you need to sort of pause and say, have we had this discussion? Especially if things are going wrong.
Can I interject? You make a very good point, because it's not easy, but isn't it easier to do that nearer the beginning than 10 years in?
I was thinking 10, 15 years.
Of course it is. When you think of arranged marriages, which I've got loads of friends who've had arranged marriages, and there is something to say that they work, because those discussions I have had before the people have even met. That's all set in stone before they've even laid eyes on each other, had a conversation. So you're absolutely right. I just think the sooner you can do, that have that conversation, the better. The more
It's
likely
funny
the
because
relationship is gonna be successful.
Sharon, I take that one step further. Like, I've got this thing, and people think I'm absolutely crazy, but I've got this thing that if, you know, if someone were to ask me to get married, I will start at, what if we got divorced? How would we go about it? No, seriously, I know it sounds bad, but I'm sort of like, but if you have that understanding, right, should anything go wrong, then you already know how it's going to go, what's divided, what's not.
No, come on.
No, listen.
No. You
What you
can't go
think
into a
about, you bring
relationship
about.
like that.
Yeah,
You can't go into a relationship like that.
No,
saying,
seriously, I'm like, look, what if we get a divorce? What?
Wow.
I'm serious.
No, I disagree.
Someone
And I think
asked me to get married one time, and I honestly, I was young, very young, and I was like, well, what would happen if we got a divorce? Like, how would that go? Where would you live? Blah blah blah.
Oh, right. All right. You were thinking about the practical.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Wow. I don't think that's. Sorry, Nigel.
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say there's nothing wrong with that. It's called a prenuptial agreement.
Prenup.
Okay. No, those are the kind of things they're discussing.
Well, at the end of the day, a prenup is effectively like, well, if this marriage doesn't work out,
yeah,
how are we going to divide our assets? Effectively, that's basically what a prenup is.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, Well, we're not discussing that right now. But guys, do you realize that we've got about 10 minutes left? By the way.
Wow.
Well, let's
Wayne,
hear from
Wayne,
Wayne then.
I am hoping that we can hear from you now.
Oh, can you hear me good now?
That is excellent.
Okay. All right.
So you're going to need to give us a good little spiel about what we've been talking about, both friends with benefits and healthy boundaries.
Well, going back to the friends with benefits, I was thinking that it's pretty much the woman is in charge of that kind of a relationship, because you can go emotionally. For the most part, guys are emotionless. So what we're going to do is try and please the woman, make her happy, whatever she wants. Now, if it benefits us as well, great. But if it's not going to benefit the woman, the relationship is stopped right there and then. So, especially in terms of sex, the woman is in charge. If when a woman knows when they go to a club, if they want to have sex that night, they will have sex with somebody that night, because they are in charge. A man, on the other hand, hopes to get lucky that night. So there's a dynamic, and I think that dynamic happens in a relationship where it's friendship with benefits, because the woman is in charge. If the woman wants to have sex that night or an ongoing thing, then I believe that she is in control of that relationship. And a guy. Are you saying it's because men are more willing,
Wayne? Are you saying because men are more willing?
Yeah, no. A guy is going to get sex wherever he can. And if a woman is making herself available for him with no strings attached, that's a foregone conclusion. That guy is going to have a relationship with that woman.
Is it true that a man thinks about sex every 6 seconds? Sorry, Wayne. Is it true that a man thinks about sex? I'm sure they said every 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
I've never counted.
I like that, Jules.
Do men have sex? Nigel, is there a scientific explanation? Do men have sex on the brain all the time?
I would say it would depend on the age of the male concerned, because obviously when you're younger and your hormones are popping as a guy, then obviously it's probably going to be more on your mind than when you hit maybe 40 or 45 or 50, because the thing with testosterone is that it declines for guys. Obviously, it declines with age. So when you're like 18, 20, 25, well, yeah, you're pumped up with it. But you know, as you age, obviously it declines. So your sex drive can also decline. So,
and is that the same for women? Do you think that women's sex drive declines as they get older? Because if the answer is
I think
yes,
it actually increases at some point.
well, that's what I was going to say. I would offer myself.
I would say probably the opposite. Only in one aspect because of society. Because you know, if you go back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, women were supposed to have a particular role and have particular behaviors. Whereas now we're in the 21st century.
Isn't it also scientific? Because the estrogen level goes down, testosterone kind of rises, and
yeah.
So I think it's also scientific.
Sorry, Sam. I just think there's more to the emotional connection, because as women get older, we just get more confident and we don't care. You know, you kind of, your expectation of what other people think about you diminishes. You become more confident in yourself. You're really more clear about what you want in life, and you make decisions differently. And
that is so true, Sharon.
Saying that, Sharon, have we? Sorry, Sharon, I was going to say, so therefore, have we wasted 10, 20, 30 years worrying about other people, what other people are going to say about us?
It's just about learning process.
So yeah, I mean, you know, every day is a school day, right? There's a learning experience from everything. But I do think that if we would take more time to understand what's going on inside rather than outside, you know, and be more comfortable with ourselves internally, be really much clearer about what we want out of ourselves rather than looking for it in other people, I think we'd be much happier, you know, emotionally, sexually, just purposefully in life. You know, I think that's got a lot to do with it. But I do think in terms of, you know, sex drive and everything else, a lot of it is about how you're feeling about yourself. So if you're not feeling great about yourself, then you're going to be making yourself available to kind of fill that void, which is missing inside of you. So, you know, going back to the point about just knowing who you are and what you want and knowing your truth, that can help. So back to the point about youngsters, you know, teach them to look inside a bit more rather than outside.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, very, very good point. I want to throw a scenario out to you guys. And let's say, and I'm trying to make one up on the spot here, but let's say someone continuously puts you down, maybe, and you know that they're not necessarily in the best place themselves. How do you maintain your boundary without hurting them in the process?
Bottom line is, empathy without boundaries is generally self-destruction. So if you're going to keep making excuses for someone's behavior, well, that's on you. Yeah. That's the whole point of having healthy boundaries in the first place, so people can't abuse and use you, basically.
Right. So you're basically saying that it doesn't matter if that person is grieving or something, they've lost their job or they just bucked their toe or whatever it may be. Well, you've got to maintain your healthy boundaries regardless.
Well, you've got to look at it on a case-by-case basis, and the case-by-case basis will be, well, first of all, is this like a one-off behavior or is it a pattern of behavior? Not rocket science. If someone's behaving like that towards me all the time or on a continuous basis, you've got to go. Simple. If it's a case of, well, you've had a bad day at work or, you know, you've got a crisis, well, obviously, yeah, you know, that's a one-off situation. But if it's a pattern of behavior, life is too short as far as I'm concerned.
So I guess what I would say,
you have to tell them, though.
That's what I was saying, that it's not right. Yeah.
You got this one. Don't ever let that happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
You don't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
And I hope if any young people are watching that they see what you just did there, Wayne, because it is about letting people know what the boundaries are. Loving you know, love yourself. Set the value. If you don't show people how you want to be treated, they're going to treat you anyhow.
Exactly, and that's what I was trying to get at. That it doesn't matter what that person's going through. You still need to set your boundaries and say something. Depending on what they're going through, you may say it a little different, maybe softer or whatever it is, but you should still say something. Because I remember when I was younger, I would make the excuse, and it is an excuse, that they're going through this or they're going through that. And yes, it may be fact, but it's also an excuse. And so if I was speaking to a younger me, I would say, you still say something. You can say whatever you want. It's how you say it.
And also you give them, you give that person the opportunity to, you know, to vent, to get whatever's inside them out. But it doesn't have to be in an abusive way.
That's right.
If they want a hug, and so that they can just let out a big scream or whatever, then you hug them and let them scream, or whatever it is. Go on a workout, do something, but get the negative energy out.
You know, Beverly Brown,
not by abusing somebody else.
But Beverly Brown is saying, after you've battled the various obstacles of life as a woman, you come out the other end discovering a renewed self like a phoenix rising. I quite agree there, because, you know, also you get to a stage, I think, where you sort of say to yourself, well, I've gone through life to a certain degree, and it doesn't matter if I'm down, happy, sad, blah, 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 things still happen and whatever, you know, and it doesn't matter if I'm the best person in the world or the nastiest person in the world, people still treat you a certain way sometimes, whatever. So you may as well just be your darn right self.
Also, it's, you know, you learn what's important, you know. So many, but for years I used to get really upset about inconsequential things, and I think as you get older you realize what's important, you realize what's important, what your expectations of yourself are and other people, etc. You know, so I totally agree. I think we all become, you know, a better version of ourselves as we learn to go along. I agree. I agree. But I think we need to be our first patients. You know, you have to look after yourself first to be able to give love to somebody else, you know, in the right way. If you're not doing the self-care and the self-love and really, you know, as I say, making sure that you know who you are, then, you know, then your cup is overflowing to give love and emotion and support and care to, you know, your friends, your loved ones, your partner, whatever. You know, well, I just think internally.
I'm so sorry, darling, but believe it or not, we have come to the end of the show. And I am going to ask you, Nigel, to just maybe give away one more tip on healthy boundaries before we close. You've got literally about 30 seconds. And then we are going to come to a close. But before we do that, I want to say goodbye to Sharon and to Wayne. And thank you very, very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you. Hopefully we'll have you on the next series. Thank you so very much. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so Nigel, could you please give us one final tip? I mean, this is our last show episode in this series. Give us one last tip on how on a healthy boundary.
Basically, have a look at yourself and be clear what your boundaries should be. If you think that you're being unfairly treated, I mean, there's plenty of information on personal boundaries, setting personal boundaries online. So no one's really got an excuse to say, well, I don't really know what boundaries are or how to do it, because there's a load of information out there. I can even buy my book. There's a whole chapter on personal boundaries in my book. There you go.
There you go. Thank you very much. Which one is that called, Nigel? Which book?
The first book, How to Avoid Making the Big Relationship Mistakes.
Great stuff. Nigel, it's been a pleasure having you on this whole series, and I really hope that we can do another one.
Thank you.
I'll be on your phone tomorrow. But for now, we're going to say goodbye. Without further ado, I'm going to have a quick word with Julie, and then we're going to be out of here. Thank you so much, Nigel. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel.
Jules, well, that was a pretty good series. I don't know if you managed to see all of it, but the first one,
I did.
Which you were on, weren't you? And then there was Narcissist, and then last week it was Polyamory, Infidelity. This week, Friends with Benefits and Healthy Boundaries. Some good topics.
I think it's been a good quartet of a subject, you know, that kind of comes under one big. See, like I'm looking at the screen. This one
big like a big umbrella, doesn't it?
Exactly, and that's quite indicative of the kind of show that we've had over the past 4 weeks. Been some great comments. I'll tell you what, some great participation from people who are taking time to text in.
Absolutely.
I didn't hear any callers.
Not
this
today,
week.
but we've had some in the past few weeks, and I think it's great when we have live callers. I love people interacting, you know. But for now, just for now, we've come to the end of this series, and it's been a real good one. It's been real cool. And we will be back with relationships part 2. But don't worry about that, Julie. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for hosting.
Always, I've learned things, which is great. So
we'll be having you back. It's always a pleasure having you. For now, it's a good night and a God bless, and thank you very much, guys. Good night. Some brilliant guests tonight.
The reason why we are on lockdown has nothing to do with the fact of building our immune system.
Try something else for a bit, then stop. So they've been using us all as guinea pigs.
What I will do differently now is that I won't feel like I haven't got a voice because I'm not Black.
Everybody's going to be dead at the same time.
I have never spoken about Black on Black because it's a nonsense, because most crimes are committed by non-Blacks.
Let that child go to school and come back with anything and see me.